In this video, I want to show you just real quick the very basics of web design. And what I mean by the very basics of web design is we just want to look at HTML and a little bit of CSS. And this is going to be broken down over a couple of different videos so they're a little bit smaller, more manageable. But it's an important topic because it's used so many places. Nowadays, the web is used if you want to configure your router or your cable modem at home. It's used in a lot of mobile apps with how they're designed and then they're transported into a native application. It's used for regular applications and business applications. In fact, one of the companies I worked for was in the process of moving almost all of their applications, both that they developed and that they used, to be cloud-based. And cloud-based means that they're stored on the internet and they're stored by the web. And so this is a very important thing. And you're going to see it all different types of places, both in your using it as well as possibly you creating it. And it's important to know how to create a web page, even if you're not a graphic designer or a computer programmer or mobile app developer or anything like that, because it can be used so simply by so many different things. And so many people have a web browser. Almost everyone has a web browser, whether it's on their phone or on their computer. It's a very easy way to share information. So I want to show you just some real basic things. And if you want more, Tusculum University does offer several classes. Some of them you can take with me, such as CISC 375, an intro to web design. There's a web development course. There's a mobile application course. There's a lot of different things if you want to get even deeper into it. But let's just start with some basic things. And to start at the very basic, I want to introduce you to a website. Now, this website is called W3 Schools, and it was originally designed for working with teaching web design and HTML. However, they have tutorials now for a lot of different things. And part of what makes it really nice is they have some interactive pieces you can work with. So I'm going to just go from the home page at w3schools.com to tutorials, and I'm going to do Learn HTML. And you should get a page like this. Now, what's nice about this is it will give you some information. You can kind of scroll through and find out about it. Plus, it gives you the ability to try things yourself. And if you open that up, notice it opened up a new tab in my browser. And I can see my content on my left-hand side and what it would create on the right-hand side. So this is the basics of an HTML page. It is just plain text. And what happens is an HTML file is saved as a .htm or .html. And your operating system, which you learned about previous, it looks at that file type and says, oh, when you go to open this, let's use your browser. And it's going to use Firefox or Chrome or Safari or whatever you have installed on your local machine. Now, you'll notice up here it has doc type HTML. This lets us know that it is an HTML5 document, and that's the 5th version of HTML, and will probably be the last one because it's designed to be constantly updated. It has HTML, and notice that it has that inside of some angle brackets, and those are called tags. And tags is how we group information together inside of a web page. So we have HTML, and notice at the very bottom we have a closing HTML tag, and the closing uses that / and then the tag name. We have a head, and in our head we're going to put things that we aren't going to see, but are going to help us to describe our web page. Then we have the body, and the body is what is seen inside the web page by the browser, by the end user. So inside our body, we have heading tags. And our first one that we want to look at is this is a heading. And notice it is inside of 2 tags. This is the H1 heading tag. And the H1 heading tag is the biggest. And if I want to make a change, I can say this is my heading. So notice all it was is just a real simple little change. I come up here and click Run. And you'll notice a change over here on the right-hand side. We then have a P for paragraph. Okay, so paragraph is like a paragraph that you would have in an English paper. Okay, it's going to have just a variety of little bits of information that you can put in here. It could be a short sentence like this. It could be a long sentence. It could be multiple sentences. On the web, we tend to keep things small and simple. If I come back to my HTML tutorial tab, I can see a variety of different things. Like here's one on headings. If I click on that, you'll notice that in its example, it shows that there are actually 6 headings. And these 6 headings are all H1 through H6. The bigger the number, the smaller the text. A good way to think about headings is kind of the way you think about maybe an outline that you do for an English paper. So for example, let's say you have a Roman numeral number, okay? I. That's going to be a main point. Well, your heading 1 or H1 tag should be the main point for your information. Your heading 2 would be like a capital letter A in that outline. And you shouldn't have a capital letter A if you don't have a Roman numeral 1. Likewise, your heading 2 is going to support your heading 1. So if I come back to my little triad editor here, I can have this as my heading, a paragraph, and then I might want to have some extra information. And so I'm going to say, well, this isn't a main thing, but it's going to support my heading. And I'll say something like HTML examples. Notice I just typed this in. It doesn't require any special coding skills or anything like that. If you've had an HTML class inside of your high school, you probably know this. This is very simple, but many people don't. And so I just want to kind of give this information. Once again, I click run, and you'll notice that my H2 is bigger than my paragraph, but smaller than my H1. This continues on. You can see these examples here. If you scroll down, you can read and see more and more information about it. We've already looked at the P for paragraph tags, and I can have lots of paragraph tags. In fact, it's one of the most common ways of laying out content inside of our web page. Now, notice that I'm not doing things like creating nav bars that shrink down to a little hamburger menu if you're on a mobile device, and I'm not doing columns and stuff like that. That's because I'm trying to keep this simple. Your headings and your paragraphs are 2 of your most important types of tags that you're going to run into, because that's how we communicate a lot of text information. Now you might say, but what happens if I don't have text information? I have something else. Well, if I click down here, you'll notice I have a section on HTML images. And my HTML image is a great way to display an image. It's actually not the only way, but for our purpose, we'll keep it simple and we'll use this. You'll notice that we have an IMG. And just like the paragraph tag, we didn't write out paragraph. We didn't write out heading 1. We wrote H1. We wrote P. Our image tag, we write IMG. The developers of HTML like to abbreviate things to keep it small. And you'll notice that this one has something we haven't seen before, and that's called an attribute. An attribute helps describe our tag and give it additional meaning. In this case, we have an SRC, which is short for source. And this says where our image can be found. Notice we say source equals, and then inside of quotes, we put the file name that we want to reference. Now, that file needs to be in the same folder as our HTML page. And if it's not going to display. So in this example that they're showing, they have an image called Pick Truly. And it's a JPEG image, and it's there, and that's why it can be displayed. We have a second attribute, which is called the alt attribute. And this is very important, especially if there's a case where someone might be visually impaired and they cannot see the image. So the alt attribute provides an alternative way of getting information about that image. So attributes can be applied to a tag, and they're simply there to provide additional information to make it easier to use, provide additional functionality, or provide functionality that not everyone's going to have access to. There are other reasons for using attributes as well, but some of those are a little bit more complicated and in more detail, and we're not going to worry about those. You'll also notice under HTML tags, it opened up a little submenu where you have image map, background images, and picture elements. We're not going to worry about those at this point, but if you want to go a little bit deeper into it, you have that ability. In fact, there's a lot of different things that we could go into, but we're not going to just yet. The reason why is we have a limited scope of this, and we want to focus on that. So let's focus on the next thing that's going to be most beneficial to us. And that is we're going to come down to our list. Now, there are three types of list inside of a HTML document. We're going to look at the two most common ones, and that is an unordered list, sometimes called a bulleted list, and an ordered list, sometimes referred to as a numbered list. And the reason they're called bulleted and numbered list is because an unordered list, notice, has little dots beside each item, where a ordered list has numbers. And this is by default. We can actually change these to be squares and letters and empty disk and a variety of different things, but by default, this is what they look like. Now, an unordered list should be a list of things that it does not matter what order they're going to be in. So, for example, let's say you're going to go on a trip and you're making a list of everything that you need to take with you so you don't forget anything. It doesn't matter necessarily what order you put those in your suitcase as long as they're all there. And so you're going to have an unordered list. On the other hand, you're going to have an ordered list if you need to do things in a specific order. So think about if you're going to now drive to the airport. You have to know the order of where you're going to turn and what direction you're going to turn. And if you got those out of order, it's going to make it very difficult for you to get to the airport. So unordered lists are when the order doesn't matter, and ordered lists are when the order does matter. To create them is very similar. I'm going to use a special tag called the UL tag for my unordered list. And then I'm going to create list items. And list item, once again, for abbreviation's sake, is just LI. Here under my HTML examples, and no specific order, so I'm going to use an order list, I'm going to list some common tags. So I did UL to let me know I'm creating the unordered list, and then a closing UL to let me know that's where it's going to end. In between these, I'm going to have LI, or list items. So I'm going to do things like paragraph, P. Then I'm going to close the list item. Open up a new one. And on I could go. I could list every HTML tag if I wanted to with its name and how it's displayed. When I click run, you notice it updates and I can see it there. Now, obviously, I don't have to have a bunch of items. This one just has 2. Typically, our list items are going to have 3 or more elements, but that's not necessarily the case. If I wanted to change this to be an ordered list, all I would have to do is change this UL to be an OL. And if I run that now, you'll notice that instead of little dots, I have numbers. And so it's very easy to use them. They both use the list item tag to create new items. The list item by default goes onto a new row, and they're all organized. So this is some real basic things with laying out a web page, the things that you almost always have to have on any website. Of course, there's a lot more, and that's why I mentioned there's other classes out there that you can take on that. but I just want to give you a real quick introduction to it so you can see what goes into it. It's simple, it's HTML, text, and it gets displayed into a web page.